In other news, heavy smoke rises over western Gaza City after Israel brought down a residential tower, the latest high-rise to be targeted in its escalating offense on Gaza. The building, known as the Tiba 2 Tower, had been evacuated earlier after Israel's military spokesman Avichai Adre issued a warning to residents in and around the area. Hours later, the military confirmed it had struck the high-rise, saying the structure was being used by Hamas for operational purposes. The destruction adds to the growing number of residential and commercial towers reduced to rubble in Gaza, deepening the humanitarian crisis as fighting intensifies across densely populated neighborhoods. Mr. Mark Sofer, former ambassador of Israel to India, with us on the broadcast. Mr. Sofer, I have to, of course, understand from you, as Israel continues its offensive against Gaza, it seems as though the city is at this point in time truly crumbling and there is a genuine humanitarian crisis. How exactly should the international community now respond or offer support to, in a way, create an atmosphere where at least humanitarian aid can be supplied?
Well, I don't know how much the current situation in Gaza is contributing to a pretty terrible humanitarian situation anyway there. I think the problem that we're facing in Israel, especially the Israeli population, is that we seem to feel that over 70% of Israelis actually, that the government doesn't have really an exit strategy how to get out of this war. What we need immediately is the release of hostages and of all the hostages and a negotiation to get out and finish this once and for all. And we don't seem to feel that's coming from the Israeli government right now. And of course, let's not forget that we're not talking about a civilized country like India or Europe, but we are facing Hamas, a terrorist organization which has been responsible for murder, rape and pillage and doesn't have any thought at all for its own population. And so we're facing this terrible situation now of a government which doesn't, in Israel, which doesn't seem to know how to extricate itself, an Israeli population of which 80% of it wants there to be an end to the war. And on the other side, a Hamas which is just bent solely on death and destruction, which it always has been. So it's a very, very difficult situation. And I think the ball lies to a large extent in the hands of President Trump. I think he has put forward a proposal which seems to be a very good proposal for the release of all the hostages and the bringing an end to the hostilities. But I don't know how it's advancing at this particular stage. It doesn't seem to be doing so.
Okay, but Ambassador Sofer, I have to understand from you, when you say, when you talk about an exit plan and say that it has to end once and for all, what does that truly entail at this point in time? Because what we're understanding from the Israeli government is that they want to put an end to Hamas. But what does that truly mean? Does that mean surrender of arms at this point in time? Or does that mean neutralization of every last Hamas terrorist?
Unfortunately, you can't bring an end to the Hamas. I think perhaps I'll start by saying that those who are in favor of the current Israeli government, or those like myself, which are actually opposed to it, we all are in a consensus that the Hamas must have no future in the entire Gaza area, not just in the city of Gaza, both militarily and politically. However, in order for that to happen, there has to be an alternative to get to Hamas rule, number one, and it has to be decimated as much as possible, number two. Well, I think the second part already is pretty much the case. Hamas doesn't really exist as a serious fighting force anymore, but what is needed now is some sort of alternative which will keep it out of power completely, and eventually, sooner rather than later, a complete disarmament of Hamas. Trump has put on the table, President Trump has put on the table a roadmap exactly for that. And that's what needs to happen right now. And I think that his ultimatum was that either it happens or it's the end of everything. I think is a very strong one, and I think has to be brought to fruition. And let's hope it does. It's crucial that the war ends. Nobody really knows where we're heading. And I don't think that Hamas, as a terrorist organization, what it is, rather like Lashkar Tiba, if you will, can be defeated solely by military means. There has to be a military component and a strong military component, but there has to be some sort of political future, some sort of alternative rule there, which hasn't been brought to the table here in Israel, and it needs to be more forwarded by both the United States and by much of the Arab world.
Ambassador Sofer, is there also a worry that Israel could, if the war continues the way it is right now, continue to lose support as far as European nations or its neighbors in Europe are concerned?
And well, yes. Well, I must say there's quite a bit of hypocrisy in Europe as far as Israel is concerned. And even those, as I say, like myself, who are against the government, seemed it's very strange to look at some of the condemnation of what happened in Qatar, for example, yesterday, not long after the the Americans bombed, got rid of bin Laden in Pakistan, or the French intervened in Mali, etc., in order to get rid of the extremists there. We're talking about a war, and I think that in Israel, everybody is in favor of the elimination of the Hamas leadership. However, it must be done, yes, in partnership with our European friends, not just in Europe, I would say Western, and not even Western, even around the world, the civilized nations, including, perhaps especially, with the forward-looking countries in the Arab world. And I don't see that happening. I don't see the Israeli government at this stage entertaining any type of serious discussion, except for with the United States. And even there, it seems to be floundering. So obviously, as long as this war drags on, the support for Israel will be harmed, and I think that that's something which is negative, dangerous even, for Israel in the long run. I do, however, feel that not all of it is coming from anti-Semitism, far from it, although anti-Semitism exists, and in no small fashion. And B, I think that it won't be long after the war is over and after this current government is no longer with us in Israel. It'll be a very short period of time until things are back on track between Israel and the international community.
Ambassador Sofer, stay on with us as we shift our focus to some more news.